Calvin Hicks here with the Chicks Flicks movie news reaction with Aquaman The Lost Kingdom finally making its streaming debut on Max. So my thoughts? Well, I wasn't too excited for this when it first was announced just because Zack Snyder hasn't been a part of this universe and has left late 2016 and hasn't really been involved since being able to release his version of Justice League, the real one, Zack Snyder's Justice League, which was phenomenal, and there hasn't really been anything great since. So my gut reaction was I actually enjoyed this. I had a fun time with it. Obviously, it's not perfect. It's not super dark, but it is light enough to kind of have it be called a family movie. It was really cool to see Jason Momoa on his final outing as Aquaman, and as well as Patrick Wilson. They both play off each other really well. So it was really kind of cool to see these two characters in a actual sequel to a movie rather than a sequel that's trying to push off 10 different franchises and start 5 different other characters. This really is a sequel to Aquaman, which was nice. You get most of the returning cast from the first one. Obviously, Tamura Morrison as his father, Nicole Kidman playing his mother. Then you get Amber Heard, who after reshoots gets a much kind of watered down role in this, which was kind of nice to see. Obviously, it's cool to see the continuity of her character being there, but she's really not at the forefront of this movie at all, which was, again, kind of appreciated. She has just a few one-liners in there, just enough to make her presence feel known, but again, just as the character, so it doesn't really ruin it for me. But these two, Patrick Wilson and Jason Momoa, really knock it out of the park playing these characters, and it really feels like Patrick Wilson kind of like doubled down on being invested in this role, so that was kind of enjoyable to see. Yahya Abdul-Manteen II comes back as Black Manta, and I really enjoyed his take on Black Manta in the first one. Really liked him as a villain in that, and it was just kind of cool to see him kind of get upgraded in this one. Of course, there's obviously some conveniences that help the movie plot kind of brush along. But other than that, it was actually really enjoyable to see all these guys kind of interact and in the world around them. Obviously, you get a couple newcomers, but mostly everyone from the first one is here. A little bit of Dolph Lundgren again, and really cool to see the visual effects. They did really a good number. James Wan came back to direct, so thankfully, obviously, anything he does is kind of pretty well to do. So really cool to see him take on, again, this big visual world, and again, I'm sure it was hard for him. These big budget movies he's spoken on not being the funnest to work on, just because of the amount of responsibility and the kind of weight that comes with it. But nonetheless, he did do a good job with this final outing with the duo here. The story is well paced. You get a clear first, second, and third act, and the visual effects again kind of really are pretty good, and you get a little bit more of the world down at Atlantis. You get some more of the land faring stuff, so it kind of does cover all bases. It is a good family movie. Again, it was just a fun time. Nothing super daunting. Nothing, again, super lighthearted. It was just enough of a balance of both for me to enjoy it and stay invested. By any means, 20 minutes in and kind of losing interest. It kind of kept my interest throughout the whole movie. So really cool to see the final outing as this pair kind of knock out of the park the current DC universe that was started by Zack Snyder that is now kind of washed away, which is unfortunate, but hopefully, you never know later on down the line if he'd ever be able to finish his vision with Netflix. That would be super cool, but neither here nor there. So to see these kind of characters finally have their arcs closed, which was, again, kind of nice to see. And again, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was. It was kind of like that adventure. You had a kind of a little bit of a heist feeling in there a couple times. Again, pacing was really good for me. And again, the characters were just strong enough and well represented enough that it kept me invested in there. Black Manta was just supremely killer. My one concern was with the actor who plays Dr. Shin, Randall Park. I wasn't sure how they were going to use him. Obviously, he's kind of a comedic relief, but in this, they actually treated him pretty well. He didn't come off like too gimmicky for me not to enjoy his character, which was by the glimpse we seen of him at the end of the first one. It was nice to see how well they treated his character in this sequel here. It wasn't, again, just the dumb, gimmicky character. Obviously, you got newcomers like Martin Short kind of making a small appearance, which was you kind of picked up his voice right away, which was kind of interesting as well. And then John Rhys-Davies playing the Brine King does extremely well. You can hear him, you can almost hear Gimli coming right out of him. So that was kind of cool too. But yeah, Patrick Wilson, Jason Momoa did a fantastic job. They kind of limited the role of Mara in there as little as possible, but again, keeping the continuity of her character, which was it was nice. It was nice. By all means, check out Aquaman 2 if you're interested in the first one. If you like the first one, I think you'll like this one. They do enough of a kind of a wrap up, so you don't really have to have seen the first one. Obviously, if you've seen the first one, you're going to get a little more backstory to each of the characters that are involved, but it does enough of it explaining it in the beginning that you don't have to have seen the first one. So again, that's kind of nice for people who haven't invested a whole lot in these series, all these different movies that have come out. They can go into this one kind of blind and have a good time with it. Again, it does seem a little bit more like a family movie. Again, it's not super so lighthearted that you can kind of throw away the action. There are some obviously some dire moments. So it's good to see that they played into that. And hats off to James Wan for sticking with it, as probably tough as it was working with these big studios on these big budget movies. But James Wan, you did good right by the characters that you started off with from the first Aquaman. So hats off to you. Now, speaking of sequels, we are just a day away from the release of Dune Part 2. And I am super excited to see what Denis Villeneuve does in this kind of outing. Essentially, it's part of the first movie. So you have Dune Part 1, Dune Part 2. This collectively comes together as one full movie. Watched a few interviews with Denis, and he has stated that you can go into this one without having seen the first one. But obviously, collectively, it plays as one movie. So really excited to see that, and watching them back to back before I go see it in the theater is going to be crucial for me, just because that's how I am. So super excited about that. I've been trying to stay away from as many teasers, spoilers as I can, but it's just so hard with a cast that looks so great as the characters that they're playing. It just kind of bodes well for me in this universe that they've built. And the one steal away, I think, is going to be Austin Butler, which I never would have thought. Would have thought that he would have been the one to kind of steal the show. But just seeing a couple shorts of him as the Baron's nephew, it really looks daunting, and it looks like it's going to be kind of the surprise hit for me. So, again, I didn't expect that. Didn't expect Austin Butler to be the one guy that's, walking away from with the kind of the biggest takeaway. So, but all in all, I'm really super excited to see these guys all come back and give their best performances, because I've heard nothing but awesome performance and stellar performances on all fronts from the entire cast. And obviously, the visuals are going to be just completely next level, and this is the movie that you want to see on the big screen. So definitely looking forward to that. And then obviously, we're just a couple months away from Rebel Moon Part 2. So really excited. April 19th, I believe, is the release date for it. Really excited for anything Zack Snyder related. And particularly with this, because as soon as Part 2 gets released, it's going to be maybe a couple months down the line that we get the R-rated director's version of these two movies. These were kind of the movies that were contained in a PG-13 kind of edited universe, and then promises of being able to see a full-on director's cut after the release of Part 2 is what I'm really giddy about, really excited about, to see more of what he actually intended for the full kind of screening, and always excited for anything he does. So we'll definitely keep you updated more on down the line as movies are coming out really quick this summer, and really excited to just see the full lineup. So Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, check it out if you haven't seen it. It's now streaming on Max. Please give it a go. The Dune movie that is now, I think, limited streaming right now. So check out Dune Part 1 before Dune Part 2 hits theaters March 1st. And other than that, we will keep you posted the best we can. Be well, be blessed, and we'll see you next time.